You are about to learn one of the biggest secrets in the history of the world. It's a secret that has huge effects for everyone who lives on this planet. Most people can feel deep down that something isn't quite right with the world economy, but few know what it is. Gone are the days where a family can survive on just one paycheck. Every day it seems things are more and more out of control, yet only 1 in a million understand why. You are about to discover the system that is ultimately responsible for most of the inequality in our world today. The powers that be do not want you to know about this, as this system is what has kept them at the top of the financial food chain for the last 100 years. Learning this will change your life because it'll change the choices that you make. If enough people learn it, it'll change the world because it'll change the system. For this is the biggest hidden secret of money. Never in human history have so many been plundered by so few. And it's all accomplished through this, the biggest scam in the history of mankind.
They say that money doesn't grow on trees, but the truth is that the modern banking system creates currency far faster than trees can grow. Most people don't have a clue how currency is created. Economists and bankers make it sound so complex that people think they can't understand it. But I'm going to strip our monetary system down to its essence so that you can see the scam behind the curtain and just how it affects you. Every modern society creates currency in pretty much the same way. But since the US dollar is the majority of the world's currency, I'm going to use the United States as our example. It all starts when some politician says, "Vote for me and I'll make sure the government provides you more free stuff than my opponent will." But there's no such thing as a free lunch. So to provide that supposedly free stuff, the politicians vote for the country to spend more than its income. This is called deficit spending. To pay for that deficit spending, the Treasury borrows currency by issuing a bond. So what's a bond? If you think about it, a bond is really nothing but a glorified IOU. It's a pretty piece of paper with numbers printed on it that says, "Loan me $1 trillion today, and I promise over a 10-year period I'm going to pay you back that $1 trillion plus interest." But what you need to understand is that Treasury bonds are our national debt. These glorified IOUs are to be paid back by you and I and our descendants through future taxation. Therefore, when the government issues a bond, it steals prosperity out of the future so that it can spend it today. The Treasury then holds a bond auction, and the world's largest banks show up and compete to buy part of our national debt and make a profit on it by earning interest. You'll notice that as we move through this process, the big banks are there, taking a cut every step of the way. This isn't by chance, as you'll see shortly. Then, through a shell game called open market operations, the banks get to sell some of those bonds to the Federal Reserve at a profit. To pay for the bonds, the Federal Reserve opens up its big old checkbook and writes bad, bogus, counterfeit checks that should bounce because they're drawn on an account that always has a zero balance. There isn't 1 penny in there. To quote from the Boston Federal Reserve, "When you or I write a check, there must be sufficient funds in our account to cover that check. But when the Federal Reserve writes a check, there is no bank deposit on which that check is drawn. When the Federal Reserve writes a check, it is creating money."
All right. I'm going to stop it right there. So hopefully that was enough to pique your interest to go watch this whole thing. It's really good at explaining with the visuals how the Federal Reserve works and just how our current financial system works. And when you understand that, you're really going to appreciate the value of Bitcoin that much more. So if you're even watching this, I've probably already talked to you about Bitcoin anyway. And that's why I started making these videos, was just for my friends and whoever family that want to learn about it, because there is still a barrier of entry that's kind of difficult. So I'm just going to go over a little bit of how to start learning about it and kind of the basics of what you need to know. So I'm not going to go into buying it in this video. I'll get to that in the next one. But this is just like intro video to Bitcoin and the Federal Reserve and why Bitcoin is going to be so powerful. So once you understand this video and how the Federal Reserve works and the banks and the government and how we're all getting manipulated by the system, then when you go over here to CoinDesk and grab this and drop it and save this website, This has all the relevant news to Bitcoin, pretty much. They're pretty on top of it. You're not going to get everything, obviously, but just it's pretty much the top source. So in this Blockchain 101, read through all of these. They're just short articles that'll kind of go through what Bitcoin is and how it works. So let's just go to this first one real quick. And let's watch this video.
What is Bitcoin? Bitcoin is the first decentralized digital currency. Bitcoins are digital coins you can send through the internet. Compared to other alternatives, Bitcoins have a number of advantages. Bitcoins are transferred directly from person to person via the net, without going through a bank or clearinghouse. This means that the fees are much lower. You can use them in every country. Your account cannot be frozen, and there are no prerequisites or arbitrary limits. Let's look at how it works. Several currency exchanges exist where you can buy and sell Bitcoins for dollars, euros, and more. Your Bitcoins are kept in your digital wallet on your computer or mobile device. Sending Bitcoins is as simple as sending an email, and you can purchase anything with Bitcoin. The Bitcoin network is secured by individuals called miners. Miners are rewarded newly generated Bitcoins for verifying transactions.
Alright, so that, I'm going to pause it real quick, because that's a big aspect of Bitcoin compared to the Federal Reserve. With the Federal Reserve, they can just print money, like, endlessly. It doesn't cost them really anything. The paper, right? And the labor to print it. But you know, they get checks from the government gets checks from the Federal Reserve for whatever they want, so it really doesn't matter. It doesn't cost them anything. That's why the government was able to bail out all the banks and inflate the economy. And eventually it's going to have consequences because you can't just keep printing money. With Bitcoin, there's a limited amount. It can't be changed. There's 21 million coins that will ever be in existence. And the mining is the proof of work behind the Bitcoin. I think it was John McAfee was saying that it's about $1,000. He has a mining farm. So, you know, he would know that it costs $1,000 to mine a single Bitcoin. So that's a lot of computing power and electricity, and it's proof of work.
After transactions are verified, they are recorded in a transparent public ledger. Bitcoin opens up a whole new...
That ledger is also key, because since it's public, there can't be any manipulation, and it's also harder to hack, because if you hack it, it changes everything else in the blockchain. So in order to hack a certain block in the blockchain, you'd have to basically hack everything in front of that block to get to that block to even change it to begin with. So it'd be like trying to pick 1,000 different locks all within 30 seconds. It's just, it wouldn't be possible. At least unless maybe you're the Flash or super fast, or just not practical. Like, it wouldn't, it would be so expensive to hack. I mean, you're talking about like quantum computing now, which I don't even really know a lot about. So anyway.
New platform for innovation. The software is completely open source and anyone can review the code. Bitcoin is changing finance the same way the web changed publishing. When everyone has access to a global market, great ideas flourish. Bitcoins are a great way for businesses to minimize transaction fees. It doesn't cost anything to start accepting them, and it's easy to set up. There are no chargebacks, and you'll get additional business from the Bitcoin economy. For more information about...
All right, so that's basic overview, right? So Bitcoin versus Federal Reserve the Federal Reserve is centralized. It's owned. It's a corporation. The government doesn't own the Federal Reserve. The government doesn't control the Federal Reserve. They're a private entity. Bitcoin, since it's decentralized, it's not owned by anybody. The creator is just this Satoshi Nakamoto is like a pseudonym or an alias that they don't really know. Like, no one really knows how Bitcoin was entirely credited, from what I understand, or created. But you can research that more if you want. Anyway, so the decentralization is key. The other thing that's key is the exchanges never shut down. So the exchanges run 24/7. So this is Coinbase's exchange. This is GDAX. It's owned by Coinbase. It's what they use when you buy and sell through here. They charge you fees to basically use this on the back end. So if you go use this in the back end, you pay less fees. And I'll show that in a different video. So the other difference with not necessarily Federal Reserve, but the exchanges, which affects the market, Bitcoin, you can wake up, like I woke up today and Bitcoin was up like $500 because it was at, I think it was at like 5,600 and now it's at like 5,650 or something like that. And now it's almost to 7,000. So since the exchanges never close, that's a lot more trading going on, which opposed to the stock market, you get cut off, right? So I think in general, you want to, when you're just getting into this, you want to understand the Federal Reserve. You want to understand Bitcoin. You want to understand what Ethereum is. And so go to CoinDesk, do some research and learn and get your knowledge, like your foundation of knowledge. And once you've done that, then you'll be a lot more confident when you go to buy and do other moves in the crypto world.